were shocked, they were confused, that loss of identity and humiliation or embarrassment, right?
In the past, I think it was called job hopping, but now there's another phrase called job hugging, right? What are you a proponent of? Welcome to Working the Ground, a podcast series where we talk about issues, but more importantly, stories related to the labour movement. Today, we have Serene as our guest. Serene, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm an Industrial Relations Officer. I've been an Industrial Relations Officer for 4 years, and I'm in the electronics and manufacturing industry.
So, for someone who's been in the RO space for 4 years, right?
Yes.
Layoffs aside, relief managers aside, have you had a single moment or incident or something that happened, right? That actually you feel that, wow, that's the weight of the role on your shoulders, or it is something that whatever actions that we do really impact someone's life on.
Yeah.
Have you had a moment like that before?
Yeah, so in the electronics / manufacturing industry, actually retrenchments are fairly common.
Right. Okay.
Ever since I started as a IRO 4 years ago, actually that was I've witnessed many retrenchments and I think that I have a couple of stories, but I think the one thing that strikes me is that actually no one is immune to retrenchment. And I think people might have that, perception that it only applies to a certain age group, a certain industry,
right.
but I don't think that's exactly a correct perception.
Okay.
I remember when I first came in, maybe like 1 year, like maybe a few months into the job type and then we were activated for this like large scale retrenchment.
Okay.
So this company is quite a well-known company then they were retrenching about 200 employees across maybe 2 to 3 days type.
Right.
So usually a union, because that company is a unionized company, will actually be there so that we can advise employees, we can tell them, suggest on some next steps how do you transit to the next job. So we were activated. I recall it happened on like weekend as well because they had shift work and these were engineers and they were mostly fresh grad engineers.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
I think what struck me was that when we were stationing ourselves outside, so the company would then usher them, after they collect their stuff, to us. And what struck me was that we were both the same age. Yeah, I actually it didn't occur to me because usually, honestly, in my role, I usually deal with people older than me.
Okay, got it.
And they were also obviously very shocked. So they were fresh grads, like guys like maybe like 2 years NS, then they just graduated, and then they were 3 months into the job type.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and then one by one they were coming into our room because we had to explain to them, what are the next steps? Is this a fair retrenchment package? Actually, if you are unhappy about it, then what's the recourse
Yeah.
and they were visibly shaken. I could tell that they were shocked, they were confused because they had just gotten a job 3 months ago.
Yeah, I can't
like literally
imagine
you just sign an employment contract, then 3 months later you come into work. Your supervisor sits you down and then tells you that, sorry, you are retrenched, and they usher you to your table. You pack your stuff and you leave immediately.
Wow,
because these companies, they are also very concerned about confidential information.
For sure.
So they are very afraid of sabotage. So they are not going to give you like, you stay here 1 month, 1 month later, you slowly pack your stuff. Yeah, so in some sense, I think there is also that loss of identity and almost like a sense of like humiliation or embarrassment, right?
It is.
You come into work and then your supervisor kind of tells you that, follows you to your desk, packs up your stuff, you leave immediately. There's no saying goodbye. Yeah, so that was what struck me, that actually younger employees are not immune to retrenchment, and even executives, they are not. They are like really your young 3 months into the job kind of engineers.
Yeah.
Then I think on the other end of the spectrum, we also do witness like people in their 20, 30 years type, and then they are suddenly told to leave on that day. So same thing, your supervisor sit you down, supervisor kind of usher you, and sometimes a bit 夸张 one like they will actually get security to usher them out. Like you don't even, because they really want to ensure that you're not stealing the stuff, you're not thinking of sabotaging the
deterrence
company. Yeah, but so I understand to some extent that security measures, but then to that employee actually is very humiliating. And can you imagine you have been working there for 20 years or 30 years? Actually, you have formed so much network, so many relationships, and then you are told on the day itself that you're coming to a company and then you are retrenched, and then you are told to leave the company immediately. Actually, sometimes it's not just about the retrenchment package, but actually the way the retrenchment exercise is being held.
Definitely.
It has to be dignified, and it has to be, it's an employee that have been working for you right? So it can be as cold as you want it to be, but it can also be as dignified as you want it to be
Wow, that I think this can only come from someone who has really lived and breathed through it. Someone like you. I just can't imagine telling someone of my age, or maybe, I mean, definitely younger than me, that, hey, sorry, 3 months in, we gotta leave.
Yeah.
So, are these cases like a bit more emotional?
I mean, so the emotional impact of such exercises are very strong. I think because, I mean, we spend most of our lives, would it be accurate to say most of our lives at work? So most of our days, most of our days, like in a day, you spend most of it at work, right?
Correct.
I hope. Are you sure or not? You sure or not for you?
Yes.
Yeah, for
I
our
work
bosses.
very hard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so then I think that is tied to the sense of identity. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
When you are retrenched, right, actually you can tell everything you want to the employee that actually your role is redundant. It's not that your performance is bad. But actually that sense of identity is so linked, right, to your work that actually is very difficult to reconcile when you are being told that you are retrenched. And then actually that it's like you are trying to grapple with this, and then you are sometimes maybe asked to sign a document immediately, and then you are like, is this fair? I have to leave today, you know. Then some companies, and it's not uncommon for companies to do this, to say that, you know, you have to sign this document within today or within a few days, or if you don't sign it, you don't get any package. And if you sign it, then you waive all claims to the company. So how do you decide?
Wow,
you know?
it's like in the moment you also don't know what to think, because you're already a bit shell-shocked already, right? And you're like, I don't know what to do. I guess that's where, I mean, if I may interject, like that's where NTUC comes in to help in a way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know like how they can help, but is there some level of emotional support also? Or like how do you encapsulate it in like a nutshell?
Yeah, so I think how NTUC can help, right? I think it's in 3 parts lah. But I think firstly, maybe just to caveat that I think a lot of people might think that we can only help rank and file, or a certain group of people, right? But actually, and we can represent executives, we can represent rank and file, and actually it's across all industries lah. It's really not just like electronics industry. Actually, there are many other unions out there, right? So I think in retrenchment exercises, there are mainly 3 ways that we can help. Number 1 is really representing your rights, advising whether this is a fair retrenchment package. So the unionized norm is 1 month per year of service lah. Of course, actually there are many factors surrounding it. It depends on your years of service, the financial circumstances of the company. But I think the bottom line is, if you have like a union representative, they are able to tell you based on their years of experiences, the industry norm across the industry, right, whether this is a fair retrenchment package, a fair and reasonable retrenchment package lah. And this probably at a time where you are a bit confused, you are still trying to recover from the news of being retrenched, this will be helpful lah, because we are able to tell you whether it's fair and reasonable. And of course, if this is not fair and reasonable, we are able to represent you to the company and negotiate on your behalf. So that's the first thing that I think that's what the union can do for you lah. Then the second part is, of course, the career transition part. Now that you have lost your job, right, actually, what is the more actionable part to it? There is, I mean, NTUC has E2I, right? They have career coaching services, you know, career matching, and then even some sort of like training support that we all can do to help you lah. So that's the second part, more actionable in terms of how you want to transit into the next kind of career that you might have. And then the third one is that actually beyond this, if you have certain hardship, financial assistance, actually the union can also help you. Of course, it depends on, you know, the criteria, your household income, etc., as most grants are. But that is also another area that the union can help you. And even in some circumstances, maybe we are not the best person to be trained for counselling, right? In some retrenchment exercises, we do work with counselling centres to then refer. There was actually a counselling centre who offered free services at one point. So we did refer these retrenched workers. Sometimes you just need like a support group to talk it out, you know, like I'm retrenched, I'm able to share my feelings, and then also individual counselling lah. So there is that kind of mental health support in some unions.
Right. Wow, okay. I think that was detailed but also quite brief at the same time. So in a nutshell, NTUC can tell you what you are entitled to.
Yes.
And they can help you to negotiate.
Yes.
And then they can support your career transition or job transition. Basically tell you what's out there and link you up. And then they also have support groups.
Yes.
So I think it kind of covers like the whole line lah.
Yes. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. I think maybe just to add, I think sometimes the company and the employee, right, the balance of power is the company obviously has a lot more power than the employee, and sometimes when you are retrenched, you feel very alone, and you feel that I don't know what are my rights. I'm afraid if I speak up, I might be blacklisted from the industry. I don't know if I go to MOM what will happen. You know what I mean? So there is that neutral party. Even if you choose not to go to negotiate with the company in the end, right? Actually, you can still get some advice whether this is fair. And NTUC has that kind of experience and that information to know whether what you are given is fair and we also do have our levers in terms of if we don't agree with the company, especially if it's a unionized company, there are levers to go to Ministry of Manpower or even to the Industrial Arbitration Court, which we have before.
Okay. So if I put it very simply, let's say I have a friend who is retrenched, and then my friend texts me, say, hey, how can NTUC help? So I have to ask the friend which stage he or she is in at, correct? Then you can advise accordingly, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and also if she's a union member
and
here is where you put the be a union member thing.
Correct. Just below. Right. And I mean, am I right to say that even like what you mentioned, I think just now, even if they are not union members, would they still have access to some of these features? Or
yes, so I mean for NTUC's E2I, you also have access as long as you are Singaporean or a PR. I believe most unions we will be able to advise you in terms of whether it's fair but if you want representation, you definitely have to be a union member
Got it. So my response to my friend should be, are you a union member?
Yes.
So, I mean, you're talking a lot about keeping the jobs and whatsoever. You know, there's this term called, in the past, I think it was called job hopping. But now there's another phrase called job hugging, right?
Yes.
So, what are you a proponent of now? I would assume, more on...
Wow, it's a very dangerous question. My bosses, what if I say job hopping, then my bosses see
that.
It's
a safe space.
Oh, okay, safe space. No, I think...
It will just be publicized on YouTube, so please remember to like, share and subscribe.
Is it Serene? Then the headline is Serene who loves job hopping.
Technically... Oh, so job hopping
No. I thought about it I think... Honestly, it depends on the season of life you are in, right? Yeah, because I think when you are younger... you will want to have a breadth of experiences. So job hopping is also a way to accumulate your experiences to see what you enjoy, what you are good at. And then perhaps when you are at a later stage, perhaps when you are getting a house, when you are starting a family, then stability might matter more to you. Right. So then job hugging, I guess, if that's the term that we are using, might be more suitable for you in that season of life. Right.
I have a bit more of a light-hearted question to sort of end this thing. But if you could swap jobs with a person for one day, who would it be and why?
I think... Okay, so I didn't think of a specific person but I did think of a role, and I think I'll be a playwright. So
playwright, like theatre.
So like script writing. Yes, because I think there is some connection to this I think as an industrial relations officer, you see a lot of what is happening on the ground, and I think I just wish that more people can see. Of course, these are like privacy things, right? So private things where people might not want to show. But I think as an industrial relations officer, you have access to a lot of these like really ground realities. And I just wish more people have access or are able to witness, what are some precarities that these workers face And I think that I'm a huge fan of theatre and production, right? And I think that usually when we go for such shows, right, actually it really reflects the ground realities, and it shows you actually what you would not have witnessed otherwise.
I see. Yeah, thank you so much. Like what I said, I wish I could have asked some more questions, and I wish the episodes were longer. Thank you for watching Walking the Ground, and thank you, Serene, for being on our show again. I think she's wise beyond her years, so if you want to get her along again for part 2, please support. Continue to like, share and subscribe. Thank you, and see you again for the next episode.